Welcome to this class. Today I am going to start a new chapter, Materials Used in Agriculture, of class 9, and the subject is Science and Technology. It is taken in unit number 19. And today we are going to focus on necessary nutrients for plant and fertilizer. In this chapter we are going to focus on necessary nutrients for plants and fertilizer. But this chapter is chemistry and is related to biology also. So I want to first tell you the important term related to biology, and then I'll connect this chapter with the materials used in agriculture. Okay, let's talk about the biology a little. All the organism, whether it is plant or animal or human, all the organisms require food for their survival and growth. But how do they get their food? How do the organism get their food? How do they fulfill the food requirement? According to that, the fulfillment of the food requirement, all the plants and animals are classified into two types. And what are they? They are autotrophs and heterotrophs. Now, all the green plants are autotrophs, but all the animals, including human, are heterotrophs. Now, I want to define these two terms first, and then we'll enter into plant nutrients. Autotrophs means, this is also called autotrophic organism. Organisms which can synthesize their own food from carbon dioxide, water and sunlight are called autotrophs. And this process of manufacturing food is called photosynthesis. All green plants can manufacture their own food. That's why they are called autotrophic organism or autotrophs. These are autotrophs. But what is heterotroph? Organisms which cannot synthesize their own food are called heterotrophs. Man and animals are heterotrophs because they cannot manufacture their own food. Look at this. These animals are dependent on grass. And these animals are also dependent on plant, and they kill another animal also to get their food. And they cannot prepare their food. They cannot synthesize their food. That's why they are called heterotrophic organism. But what about the human? How do we get food? There are two major methods of getting food. One is agriculture and another is animal husbandry. What is agriculture? It's a very simple way we can say that the growing of plants or crops to obtain food is called agriculture. We do this in the field, and these are the farmers who are dependent on this agriculture, and they get crops from their field and they can get the food. Now let's talk about animal husbandry also. It is the branch of agriculture concerned with animals that are raised for meat, milk, fiber and other products. And we can see this picture. This picture says that these goats are raised for meat, but cow farming is done to get milk. But we are not related to fiber, and actually we are focused on agriculture and agricultural product. That's why we are not talking a lot about the animal husbandry. We have to talk today. We have to focus about the agricultural product, which we say crops. And now it's time to talk about the crops. What is crop? The plants grown and cared in the field for getting food are known as crops. Grains, roots, fruits, vegetables, etc. are crops. Don't think that only the grains are crops. Whatever we get from the field, grown in the plant, I mean to say grown by the plant, which we eat, are crops. That's why not only grains, roots, fruits, vegetables, etc. are also crops. Look at this example. Here we have maize, rice, wheat, pulses, etc. These are the products obtained from the field, and they are crops. And look at this picture also. Here we have different varieties of vegetables. And all these vegetables are grown in the field. That's why they are crops. But all these are grown in the large field. And this is the picture of the field. What we are doing over there, we have to use plant. We have to grow the plant. And that plant requires certain nutrient to grow nicely. And this healthy plant gives us all these crops. That's why the agriculture by which the crops are grown is the major concern of this chapter, and the nutrients which are required by the plants to grow very nicely is our major subject today. That's why I want to talk about the plant nutrients. How can we grow plant very nicely? And healthy plant can be grown by the help of plant nutrients. So let's talk about the plant nutrient. What is plant nutrient? We can say that the minerals required for the growth and survival of plant are called plant nutrients. It is classified into two types. One is called macronutrients, another is called micronutrients. What are they exactly? We can define macronutrients this way. The mineral elements needed by the plants in large amount are called macronutrients. The nutrients which are necessary for plant in large amount, they need a lot. Just for example, in case of human also, we are dependent on different nutrients, but we need protein, carbohydrate, fats and minerals in large amount. But vitamins and minerals, we need a little amount. In the same way, the plant also requires some of the nutrient in large amount. They are called macronutrients. And they are also called macro elements and major elements. These are either called macronutrient or macro elements or major elements. What are they? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, calcium, magnesium. All of them are represented by their symbol also, because we are talking about the chemistry, we are learning chemistry. That's why if any element comes, then we have to know their symbol also. If any compound comes, then we have to know its molecular formula. So these are the macronutrients. Among these 9, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen can be taken up by the plant very easily. Let's talk about this. Plant takes carbon from the atmosphere in the process of photosynthesis in the form of carbon dioxide. In this process, carbon is taken up by the plant. And on the other side, oxygen is taken up by the plant in the process of respiration from air, atmosphere. This way, carbon and oxygen can be easily taken up by the plant from atmosphere. And hydrogen, it gets hydrogen from water. I mean to say, water is absorbed by the root. They can get hydrogen also easily. That's why we don't have problem of this carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. We don't have problem to supply these three matter, because they will be taken up by the plant from air and from water. But the problem is with nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. There are other also sulfur, calcium and magnesium, but among the remaining nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, we can remember this as NPK. N is nitrogen, P phosphorus, K potassium. This NPK, these three macronutrients are very necessary matter for the good growth of plant. Besides this, look at the sulfur, calcium and magnesium all are also necessary, but we don't have to supply them because they are present in the soil in adequate amount. But maybe nitrogen, phosphorus or potassium may be present in less amount. We have to supplement this with the help of fertilizer. So I want to focus on nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Later we will learn in detail about these elements, these macronutrients and their function also. How do we supply these elements, by which fertilizer, that also will talk about them in another class also. Look at this. Macronutrient is now clear. Now let's talk about micronutrients. What it means? Micronutrient means The mineral elements needed by the plants in very small amounts are called micronutrients. Some of the materials are required in small amounts. Just for example, in case of human, we need vitamins and minerals in very trace amount. In the same way, the micronutrients are required in trace amount. What are they? They are also called micro elements or minor elements. Exactly what are they? They are iron, manganese, copper, zinc, boron, molybdenum, chlorine. These are micronutrients. If plant do not get all these nutrients, then what happens? Lack of one or more nutrient if occur in the field, I mean to say, if plant do not get all these nutrients, then what can happen? Plant will dry. The deficiency of one or two nutrient makes it unhealthy, and deficiency of many nutrient, because of the deficiency of many nutrient, they will die. That's why we have to take care about this nutrient. But how do we take care about this nutrient? How to supply this nutrient to the plants? This is possible only by the help of soil. That's why soil has very important role to supply the nutrients. Now I want to talk about the soil. If you are told to say what is soil, then you can say the upper layer of earth crust in which plants are grown is called soil. Soil can be defined differently in different parts of science, in chemistry differently, in geology differently, but we are concerned with the plant and its growth. That's why we can say that the upper layer of the earth crust in which plants are grown is called soil. And soil has very important function for the growth of plant. And what are its function? The major function, I want to mention the major function of soil. It provides plant nutrients. Actually, soil is the reservoir of plant nutrient. All the nutrients except few which they take from atmosphere, all the nutrients are supplied to the plant by the soil. And that's why it provides plant nutrient. What provides plant nutrient? Soil provides plant nutrient. It is reservoir for the plant nutrient. Next point, it provides water through roots. Nutrients are also provided by the root actually, and the water is also provided by the root. Actually what happens, these nutrients are present in the soil in the form of salt, and they dissolve in water, and when a plant absorbs water, then the nutrients are also absorbed because these nutrients are present in the form of salt and it is dissolved in water, and this way the plant gets nutrient. Okay, other function, it provides oxygen to the roots through aeration. Actually soil is, if aerated, it is loose, then it provides oxygen to the root also, which is necessary for good growth of root. Another point, it holds or supports the plant. Without the soil, plant do not get any support and it won't grow. That's why this is one of the important function of soil. It holds and supports the plant. Another function, it provides humus. Do you know what is humus? Humus is made by the organic substances. I mean to say, when organic substances like animal dung and plant residue decompose, then it forms a dark colored sticky substance that is called humus, which appears like this. And this humus is rich in organic substance, and this is very useful for the good growth of plant. That's why soil provides this to the plant, and this is one of the important function of soil. Now I want to talk a little more about the soil in terms of agriculture. In agricultural process, there are certain schedule, certain practices we have to do these practices, and then only we'll be able to get healthy crops. And what are these practices? First, we have to prepare soil for the agriculture. We have to prepare soil for the growth of the plant. And then only sowing is possible. Sowing, in Nepali we say ropne kam. This is possible after the preparation of soil. And then we'll go through fertilizer. We'll use fertilizer for the good growth of plant. And then irrigation is another factor. We have to go through it also. And then we have to control the weeds also in the agriculture. And then use of pesticide is important, otherwise many plants will die in the field. I mean to say, pest will destroy in the field. And another, lastly, we'll harvest the plant, and then threshing and winnowing gives us the crops. These are the agricultural practices which we have to do in the field. And I want to talk about each of them one by one, and then we'll have a clear idea about the good growth of plant. Let's start with preparation of soil. How do we prepare soil for the agriculture, for the good growth of plant? First, preparation of soil means first the plowing, and then it is followed by leveling, and then manuring follows the leveling. These three processes are necessary for the preparation of soil. Plowing means what? The loosening of the soil or turning of the soil is called plowing. And traditionally, how we are doing this? Using a pair of bullock, we'll turn the soil, we'll make the soil loose. And the instrument used for it is a plow. This is traditional plow. Traditionally, we are using from hundreds of years. And for very big field, the large area, it is not possible to plow the field by using this type of device. Then we'll use this tractor. And just behind the tractor, a disc-like structure is set. And this disc-like structure is called plow, disc plow. And it plow the field. And after the plowing of field, we have to level it. We have to level it, otherwise lot of soil will be blown away by the wind, or it may be eroded by the water. That's why to prevent the soil from erosion and blowing of the soil by the wind, it has to be leveled. And this way we can level the soil. This can be done with the help of a pair of bullock, also using a plank also. And after leveling, what we do? We use manure. We mix manure in the soil. It is buried actually, it is covered by the soil. And this manure actually decomposes to form organic fertilizer. Many nutrients are now available for the plant. This way, we prepare the soil for good growth of plant. After the preparation of soil, we have to go through sowing, the process of scattering or putting seeds in the soil for growing crop. Growing crop plant is called sowing. And it is done by two different methods. One by hand, just by hand only, and second by using seed drill. We can spread these seeds into the soil. It is if spread, then many seeds may be taken up by the birds. It will be taken up by the birds. That's why this method is not so good. The scattering of the seed by hand is not so good method, because the seed comes on the surface and it will be eaten up by the birds. It would be better to use the seed drill. Seed drill appears like this. Seed is taken in the container and there are many tubes connected to it, and this tube buries it, sow it into the soil. And it goes inside the soil. That's why it wouldn't be eaten up by the birds also. The sowing is done this way. Now we have to take care of sowing. There are certain precautions related to the sowing. I want to mention this also. Precautions of sowing seeds. First, seeds should be sown to right depth for germination. If it is sown to greater depth, it won't germinate because it won't get oxygen. And second, seeds should be sown to right interval. If there is very less distance between the seed, then they do not get the sunlight and they do not get water, they do not get nutrient in proper amount. That's why distance between the seeds should be maintained. They should be in right interval. I mean to say the distance between the seeds should be maintained. And next, seeds should be clean, healthy and free from infection. An infected seed gives very bad crops, I mean to say unhealthy crops, and is not allowed. I mean to say this is not acceptable. Now, seeds should not be sown in dry and highly wet soil. If seed is sown in dry soil, then it won't grow, it won't germinate. If it is sown in wet soil, then what happens? Decay of seed may occur. That's why these are the precautions which we should take while sowing the seed in the field. But sometimes this sowing, instead of sowing, this process, transplantation process is done. Some of the plants are grown differently in different small sector, and this nursery is developed, and this nursery which is developed here in small piece of land is called seedling, and these seedling are then transferred to the field, main field, in this way. And this is done with rice, it is done with this tomato also, it is done with chili also. Rice, tomato and chili. We are not spreading seed in the field directly, we will transplant this by developing its nursery. The healthy plant which we get from this nursery is when transferred to the main field, that is called transplantation. That's why transplantation can be told this way: the transfer of seedling from nursery to the main field is called transplantation. We are continuously talking about the agricultural practices. These are the agricultural practices. I told you about the preparation of soil and sowing. Now it's turn of fertilizer, but later I will talk in detail about the fertilizer, organic fertilizer, chemical fertilizer, etc. Now it's turn of this irrigation. Let's talk about the irrigation first. What is irrigation? This is just the process of supplying water to crop plants in the fields, and this process is called irrigation. Water is supplied by canals, reservoir, well, tube wells, etc. And this process is necessary. We have to go through irrigation throughout the year. Otherwise, because of evaporation of water, because of the percolation of water, percolation means the draining out of water in the depth, the field will be dry. And to make it wet, to make it very fertile, it must be supplied with water, and that's why irrigation should be done throughout the year. Okay, now next is control of weeds. In this process, in agricultural processes, there are certain practices, we are talking about them. In this practice, there is another point, control of weeds. Weeds means the plant which grows in the field, the grasses and other which we do not want. They have to be picked up from the field and they have to be thrown out, or we can use the khurpa to pick up the weeds and we'll throw it out. And if the amount of weeds are very high, then we can use weedicide to control the weeds. After the control of weed, we have to use pesticide also in agricultural practice. It also comes use of pesticide, but this use of pesticide comes in another class. We'll talk in detail about different types of pesticide. Now, the time has come to harvest the grown crops, and this is called harvesting. The process of cutting and gathering of matured food crops is called harvesting. We will harvest by cutting at the lower side of the plant, cutting the plant at the lower side. And after harvesting, threshing and winnowing should be done. The beating out of grains from harvested crop plants is called threshing. The separation of grain from chaff and hay with the help of wind is called winnowing. After threshing and winnowing, now we'll get the grain or crop which is grown in the agricultural field. This is all about the agricultural practice. What are they? Preparation of soil, sowing, use of fertilizer, irrigation, control of waste, use of pesticide, harvesting and threshing and winnowing. After all this, then only we'll be able to get this agricultural product as crops. Here in number 3, use of fertilizer is written. And what I told you, I'll talk about this fertilizer later. Now time came to talk about the fertilizer. Now we are going to talk about the fertilizer which we use in the field. What is fertilizer? If someone says, what is fertilizer? We can say like this: the substances which are used to increase the fertility of soil for good growth of plant are called fertilizer. It is classified into two types. One is organic fertilizer, another is chemical fertilizer. Looking at the word organic, it can be understood very easily. It comes from plants and animals. What is organic fertilizer? Fertilizer made by the action of bacteria and fungi over the animal waste and plant buried into the ground is called organic fertilizer. We need waste of the animal, we need the agricultural waste plants, and when they are buried into the ground, then bacteria acts upon this agricultural waste and animal waste, and fungi also acts upon it, and it decomposes these substances and forms organic fertilizer. It is divided into two types. One is compost fertilizer, another we can say green fertilizer. Actually, green fertilizer is also later converts to organic fertilizer like compost fertilizer. Besides this, there are other fertilizer also. Powder of mustard cake, which is called pina. When mustard seed is squeezed, then we get mustard oil. And the solid substance left behind is called pina. And this pina is, if powdered, then it acts as very good fertilizer in the field. In the same way, bone meal, bone of the animal if crushed and powdered, then it becomes very good source of phosphorus and calcium for the plant and can be used as fertilizer. In the same way, ash is another very good organic fertilizer which contains phosphorus, potassium and magnesium. It can supply these elements to the plant. And that's why organic fertilizer, there are many, but among them compost fertilizer and green fertilizer is highlighted in your book. That's why I'm talking about them a little more. Compost fertilizer, what is it? The organic waste substance, the residue, plant residue and animal waste are if buried into the ground, then they will be acted upon by the bacteria and fungi and they convert into the compost fertilizer. They decompose into the compost fertilizer. We can say like this: it is a natural substance obtained by the decomposition of animal waste like animal dung, human waste and plant residue, which supplies plant nutrient and humus to the soil. This is about the compost fertilizer. Now what is green fertilizer? I won't talk about this. This asuro, pati, gaja, khirro. These green plants are if buried into the soil. Before the agriculture, if they are buried into the soil, then they decompose within few days and converts to organic fertilizer and they are called green fertilizer. And so we can say that fertilizer obtained by the decomposition of green plants in the soil of the field is called green fertilizer. And we can say that these are the green plants which are buried into the ground and within few days they convert to organic fertilizer, and that's why we can say these substances are green fertilizer. Now, what are the advantages of this organic fertilizer, especially organic fertilizer, or we can say compost fertilizer, which is widely used in all the fields in the rural areas? What are the advantages? We can say that it does not change the acidity and alkalinity of soil and does not pollute the atmosphere. One of the great advantages of compost fertilizer or organic fertilizer is it doesn't change acidity and alkalinity of soil, whether it is used in greater amount or whether it is used in less amount. It doesn't make any change in the soil condition of the soil, chemistry of the soil. This is one of the great advantage of compost fertilizer or organic fertilizer. Now second, It consists of organic substance. I told you about this, humus. So, helps in good growth of plant. Humus contains hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon, etc. And this is very good for the good growth of plant. Now, third advantage, it prevents water in the soil. This humus holds water, and because of the holding of water, water is prevented in the soil. And another, it prevents erosion and leaching. If there is less amount of this organic fertilizer in the soil, then water can erode the soil. And leaching means this draining out of water may occur, and leaching and erosion is prevented by the compost fertilizer because it can hold water. And another advantage, compost fertilizer is biodegradable. Compost fertilizer is biodegradable. They can be decomposed into simpler substances by environmental processes, different environmental processes. Hence, it doesn't pollute the environment. If they are biodegradable, it doesn't pollute the environment. This is all about the organic fertilizer. Now let's talk about the chemical fertilizer. I want to just define the chemical fertilizer. In another class, we will be involved in detail in chemical fertilizer. What is chemical fertilizer? Just definition. Actually, they are salt or organic compound. That's why we can define a salt or an organic compound containing necessary plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus or potassium is called chemical fertilizer, which is used to make soil more fertile. Have you noticed this? The chemical fertilizer is used to supply either nitrogen or phosphorus or potassium. They are nutrient specific and they are in the form of salt or compound, and they are compact. And to supply nitrogen, if there is deficiency of nitrogen in the soil, we can supply only nitrogen by using certain chemical fertilizer, which is called nitrogenous fertilizer. In the same way, there is phosphorus fertilizer, which supplies just the phosphorus only. These are the salts or organic compound which contains this nitrogen, phosphorus or potassium, and it is supplied to the plant according to the requirement. Okay, after all this explanation, now I want to see whether the subject matter is clear to you or not with the help of few questions. Let's start. Question. Statement. I made a statement. Look at this carefully. Plant nutrients are categorized into macronutrient and micronutrient according to the amount of this nutrient necessary for the plant. Is it? Now let's talk about another point also. Argument 1. Hydrogen, oxygen and carbon are easily taken up by the plants from air and water, hence they are called minor elements. Argument 2. Nitrogen, phosphorus and chlorine are three major nutrients for plant supplied by the chemical fertilizer. Looking at all these, we have to select one of the option. Now look at option number 1. Only statement is correct, is it? Look at this. Plant nutrients are categorized into macro and micro nutrient according to the amount of these nutrients necessary for the plant. Yes, according to the amount of nutrient. If a plant needs more nutrient, that is called macro, and if less nutrient, that is called micro. Yes, this statement is correct, but only statement is correct is written here. Maybe argument also correct. That's why this number 1 is suspended. May be correct, may not be correct. Now we have to go through second option. Statement and argument 1 are correct. Statement is correct, we know. But argument 1, hydrogen, oxygen and carbon are easily taken up by the plants from the air, yes, and water. Hence they are called minor elements. No. They can be taken up by the air and water, but they are required in huge amount. That's why they are not minor. They are what? Major elements. So argument 1 is incorrect. Number 2, we have to drop it down. Number 3, statement and argument 2 are correct. Check it out. It's argument 2. Nitrogen, phosphorus and chlorine are three major nutrients for plant supplied by the chemical fertilizer. Is it correct? No. Nitrogen, yes. Phosphorus also yes. But chlorine is not the major nutrient. This is minor nutrient. That's why this point is not correct. So, statement and argument 2 are correct. This option is not correct. Now, statement and both the arguments are correct. This is completely wrong because both the arguments are incorrect. That's why we have to come back to point number 1, option number 1. Only statement is correct. Okay, this way we can decide that only statement is correct. Now, I want to present some other question also. Find the correct and incorrect arguments from the following. Number 1, peanut, bone meal, ash and urea are organic fertilizer. In the same way, another argument. Which argument is correct? Which one is incorrect? Let's see. First, peanut, bone meal, ash and urea are organic fertilizer. Is it? No, because peanut, bone meal and ash, these are organic fertilizer, but urea is not organic fertilizer. This is chemical fertilizer or inorganic fertilizer. So first point is incorrect. Now second, osuropati, gaja, khirro, etc. are the plants which can be used as green fertilizer. Yes, I told you about this. And plowing, leveling and manuring comes under the preparation of soil in agriculture. Yes, it comes under the preparation of soil. Plowing is followed by leveling and is followed by manuring. This point is correct. Threshing and winnowing are the processes which comes before the harvesting. Is it correct? No, after the harvesting, these processes comes. That's why this is incorrect. Now I finished today's target. I think you are benefited by this class and subject matter is understood. We'll meet in another class with some other subject matter. Thank you.